A new threat emerges. Captain Zara Vance stood on the bridge of the starship Odyssey, gazing out at the vast expanse of space visible through the expansive windows. The Odyssey was the pride of Earth's burgeoning interstellar fleet, a sleek, powerful vessel incorporating the latest in human ingenuity and technology. Zara had handpicked her crew from the best and brightest Earth had to offer. Her second-in-command, Commander Liu Ji, was a brilliant strategist. The ship's pilot, Lieutenant Commander Ava Reeves, could make the massive Odyssey dance like a graceful ballerina. Down in engineering, Chief Engineer Miguel Ortega worked miracles on a daily basis to keep the ship's experimental fusion drive running smoothly. It had been an uneventful mission so far, patrolling Earth's colonial frontiers along the Orion Spur. Humanity had spread to the stars over the last century, establishing thriving colonies and mining outposts on a dozen habitable worlds. The Odyssey helped maintain a protective watch over Earth's growing interstellar domain. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal," the communications officer, Ensign Suki Tanaka, called out. "It's not from any of our colonies." Zara strode over to the comm station, her brow furrowed. "Put it on screen, Ensign." The main view screen flickered and resolved into the image of an alien being. It had bluish skin, large dark eyes, and a tapered head that reminded Zara of a dolphin. The universal translator kicked in a moment later. "Any civilizations receiving this message, we urgently request your aid. Our homeworld of Corva Prime is under attack by the Virium Dominion. Our defenses are failing. We cannot hold out much longer against their onslaught. Please, if anyone can hear us, we need." The transmission crackled with static and then cut out abruptly. Zara exchanged a concerned look with Liu Ji. In all of humanity's interstellar explorations, they had never encountered another sapient species, much less two engaged in all-out conflict. "Corva Prime. That's a new one," Liu Ji said, already pulling up star charts on his console. "There, coordinates embedded in the transmission. Looks like it's about 15 light-years spinward from our most distant outpost." Zara pondered the situation for a long moment, then nodded to herself decisively. She was not about to ignore a call for help, even from an unknown species. That was not how she operated. Helmsman Reeves lay in a course for Corva Prime, maximum speed. "Aye, Captain." Hava entered the coordinates and the Odyssey leaped forward into warp, the stars blurring into long streaks of light. As her ship hurtled through the void toward a first contact scenario that was also a combat zone, Zara could only hope they would reach the Corva in time. The stakes for this mission had suddenly become a lot higher than a routine patrol. The fate of an entire civilization, perhaps even two, might rest on the actions of Zara and her intrepid human crew. Little did they realize, as the Odyssey crossed the gulf between stars, that they were about to be plunged into a conflict that threatened not just alien worlds, but Earth itself. A new threat was emerging from the depths of space, one that would test human ingenuity and resilience like never before. In the trials to come, it would be the unyielding human spirit that would light the way in the darkest of times. Titled First Contact. The Odyssey dropped out of warp at the edge of the Corva system, the ship's powerful sensors immediately scanning the surrounding space. What they revealed sent a chill down Zora's spine. A massive fleet of angular black ships was pummeling the blue-green world of Corva Prime with a relentless barrage of energy weapons. Swarms of fighter craft buzzed around the larger vessels like angry hornets. "Red alert! Raise shields! Charge weapons!" Zara ordered, her voice cutting through the sudden tension on the bridge. As warning klaxons blared and the crew rushed to battle stations, a hail from the planet reached the Odyssey. The view screen resolved into the image of a Corvan, its bluish skin pale with fear. "Unknown ship, identify yourself." The alien's voice was tight with stress. "This is Captain Zara Vance of the Earth Starship Odyssey. We received your distress call and came to help." The Corvan's eyes widened. "Earth, we know nothing of your people, but we welcome any aid in our desperate hour. I am Counselor Zoran of the Corvin High Council. Counselor, we will do what we can to assist you. Who is attacking you? They are the Virium, a race of merciless cyborg conquerors. They sweep from system to system, enslaving or destroying all in their path. We are their latest target. Zara frowned. The Virium sounded like a formidable foe. Counselor, if you can hold out a little longer, we will attempt to evacuate as many of your people as possible. Zoran's face fell. I fear there are too many of us, and too little time. Our planetary shields are already failing. The Virium will soon break through. All may be lost. Zara leaned forward, her eyes blazing with determination. Not on my watch. We're coming, Counselor. Odyssey out. She turned to Lu Ji. Commander, I need a plan to punch through that blockade and get to the surface. Lu Ji worked furiously at his console, analyzing the Virium fleet's positions and movements. I've got a gap, Captain. It's a slim one, but if we hit it at maximum speed, we should be able to slip through. Reeves, did you hear that? Plot a microjump and engage on my mark. Aye, Captain. The pilot's fingers flew over her controls. Ortega, I need everything you can give me from the engines. The chief engineer's voice crackled over the comm. You've got it, Captain. Diverting all power to engines and forward shields. Zara gripped the arms of her command chair as the Odyssey hurtled toward the Virium lines. Steady, steady, mark. The ship leaped forward, weaving and dodging through a hail of enemy fire. The shields flared as they absorbed repeated hits. Consoles sparked on the bridge, but Reeves held their course steady. At the last second, a massive Virium battleship loomed before them, its cavernous hangar bay yawning open like the maw of some great beast. Reeves never hesitated. She fired the forward thrusters and sent the Odyssey skimming along the edge of the hangar bay, so close that the ship's shield scorched the alien hull. Then they were through, racing toward the besieged planet below. Zara allowed herself a breath of relief. The easy part was over. Now came the real challenge, evacuating the Corvin leadership from a world on the brink of collapse. As the Odyssey plunged into the atmosphere of Corva Prime, Zara could only hope they were not too late. The fate of the Corva, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself, now rested on the shoulders of her and her brave crew. It was a weight she was determined to bear, no matter the cost. Titled Devising a Plan, the Odyssey settled into orbit around Corva Prime, its shields shimmering as they deflected the occasional potshot from the Virium ships. On the bridge, Zara faced the view screen where the weary face of Counselor Zoran looked back at her. Flanking him were a dozen other Corvin leaders, their expressions grim. Captain Vance, words cannot express our gratitude for your daring rescue, Zoran said. But I fear our plight is far from over. The Virium will not rest until they have conquered our world utterly. Zara nodded. I understand, Counselor. We will do everything in our power to aid you. But you must understand, we are just one ship. We cannot hope to defeat the Virium fleet alone. Zoran's shoulders slumped, but then a glimmer of hope entered his eyes. Perhaps not, but there may be a way for you to help us turn the tide. Our scientists have been working on a new type of shield technology, far more advanced than anything we currently possess. With it, we believe we could withstand the Virium onslaught. But the prototypes are located in a research facility on the far side of the planet, deep in Virium-controlled territory. Zara leaned forward. If we could get our hands on that technology, it could be a game-changer, not just for your people, but for mine as well. If the Virium come for Earth. She left the thought unfinished, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Lu Ji stepped forward. Captain, I volunteer to lead a ground team to retrieve the shield technology. If we can use the Odyssey's transporters to get in close, we may be able to slip past the Virium lines. Zara considered for a moment, then nodded. Make it happen, Commander. Take Reeves and a squad of Marines with you. Get in, get the tech, and get out fast. As Lu Ji moved to carry out her orders, Zara turned back to Zoran. "Counselor, I must also warn Earth of the Varium threat. If we fall here, they will be humanity's last line of defense." Zoran bowed his head. "Of course, Captain. Do what you must. We will pray for your success, and for ours." The view screen winked out, and Zara sagged back into her chair for a moment, the weight of command heavy on her shoulders. Then she straightened, her resolve hardening. She would not let the Corva down. She would not let humanity down. Over the next few hours, the Odyssey became a hive of activity. In the transporter room, Lu Ji and his team prepared for their daring mission. In engineering, Ortega and his crew worked feverishly to repair the damage from their earlier battle and coax more power from the overtaxed engines. And on the bridge, Zora composed a message to Starfleet Command, detailing the Varium threat and urging immediate action to bolster Earth's defenses. She knew her words would cause alarm, maybe even panic, but she had to make them understand the gravity of the situation. As she hit the send button, Zara could only hope that her message would be heeded, that Earth would be ready for what was to come. Because if the Varium broke the Corva here, there would be nothing to stop them from setting their sights on humanity next. The fate of two species, the fate of the galaxy itself, hung in the balance, and Zara was determined to tip those scales, even if it cost her everything. She had sworn an oath to protect and defend, and she would fulfill that oath to her last breath. The Varium had picked the wrong species to mess with. They had no idea of the depths of courage, the wells of ingenuity, the sheer stubborn will that drove the human heart. But they were about to find out. The Varium strike. Light years away from the besieged world of Corva Prime, Earth spun serenely in the void, a blue-green jewel of life amid the vast emptiness of space. In the gleaming cities that dotted its surface, in the bustling orbital habitats that circled it like a necklace of stars, billions of humans went about their daily lives, unaware of the gathering storm that threatened their very existence. That peace was shattered in an instant as a massive fleet of Varium warships dropped out of warp at the edge of the solar system. Their angular black hulls seemed to swallow the light, their weapons bristling with malevolent energy. In the Odyssey's CIC, a klaxon blared as the long-range sensors detected the enemy's arrival. Zara's blood ran cold as she saw the size of the fleet. There were hundreds of ships, each one a match for the Odyssey in firepower. "They're not responding to our hails, Captain," Ensign Tanaka reported, her voice tight with fear. "They're just coming." On the main view screen, Earth loomed large, a fat, tempting target. Zara's mind raced, desperate for a plan. The Earth defense fleet was formidable, but it was scattered across the system. It would take time to gather, time they didn't have. "Send a priority alert to all ships," she ordered. "Converge on Earth, best possible speed. And get me Starfleet Command now." But even as she spoke, the Varium struck. A dozen of their largest ships broke formation, diving toward Earth like birds of prey. Their weapons charge, glowing with baleful light. "They're targeting the major cities." Lu Ji cried out, "London, New York, Beijing, Moscow. Ortega, I need the warp drive back online, yesterday." Zora barked into the comm. "We have to get back there." In engineering, Ortega and his team worked frantically, sweat pouring down their faces as they raced to repair the damaged war core. They had been hit hard in the last skirmish with the Varium, and the drive was still offline. On the bridge, Zora could only watch in helpless horror as the Varium ships opened fire. Searing beams of energy lanced down from orbit, striking the great cities of Earth with devastating force. In an instant, millions of lives were snuffed out, reduced to ash and rubble. Zora's knuckles whitened on the arms of her chair. She had failed. She had sworn to protect Earth, and she had failed. The weight of those lost lives pressed down on her like a physical force, threatening to crush her. But even as despair clawed at her heart, a cold, hard anger began to rise within her. The Varium had made a fatal mistake. They had thought to break humanity with this brutal attack, to cow them into submission. They had no idea of the fury they had unleashed. Zara rose from her chair, her eyes blazing with a fierce, undaunted light. Helm, lay in a course for Earth, maximum warp. We're going home. The Odyssey leaped forward, racing toward the distant blue world that was their home, their heart. Toward the battle that would decide the fate of humanity. The Varium had started this war, but by all that was holy, Zara swore that humanity would finish it. The Odyssey would stand against the darkness, a shining beacon of hope and defiance. And Earth would rise from the ashes, stronger and more united than ever before. For this was the indomitable spirit of humanity, the unyielding will that had carried them to the stars and beyond. And it would carry them through this, their darkest hour, to a new dawn, the battle for Earth. As the Odyssey dropped out of warp at the edge of Earth's solar system, the scale of the devastation became horrifyingly clear. The once pristine blue world was now marred by ugly scars, vast swathes of its surface obscured by roiling clouds of ash and debris. The orbital habitats that had once teemed with life were now shattered hulks, spinning listlessly in the void. But Earth was not dead. Not yet. As Zara watched, a ragtag fleet of ships rose up from the planet's surface, from the hidden asteroid bases and lunar outposts. They were a motley assortment. Everything from sleek Navy frigates to bulky cargo haulers, their hulls bristling with hastily mounted weapons. At their center, the core of the Earth Defense Fleet rallied. A dozen heavy cruisers and battleships, battered but unbroken. They formed up around the Odyssey, ready to make their stand. On the bridge, Zara felt a surge of pride and determination. Earth still lived. And as long as a single human heart still beat, they would fight. "Hail the fleet," she ordered. "This is Captain Zara Vance of the Odyssey. I am taking command of the combined Earth forces. All ships, form up and prepare to engage the enemy." A chorus of acknowledgments came back, grim but resolute. They knew the odds they faced. They knew that this might be their last stand, but they would face it together, united. The Varium fleet, sensing the gathering resistance, turned ponderously to face them. Their black ships seemed to fill the sky, blotting out the stars. Zara took a deep breath. This is it. This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. This is where they die. A cheer went up from the crew, a roar of defiance and courage. Zara pointed to the view screen, to the massed enemy ships. Fire. The Earth fleet opened up with everything they had. A storm of missiles and energy beams lashed out, slamming into the Varium shields. The enemy returned fire, and space was crisscrossed with deadly light. The Odyssey wove through the chaos, her own weapons blazing. Zara gripped the arms of her chair as the ship bucked and shuddered under the onslaught. Consoles sparked and smoked, the lights flickering. But they pushed on, boring into the heart of the Varium formation. And there at the center was their target, the massive command ship, directing the battle like a malevolent spider at the heart of a web. "Concentrate fire on that ship," Zara roared. "We take it down. We end this." The Odyssey surged forward, the rest of the human fleet rallying behind it. They poured fire into the command ship, hammering at its shields. For a long moment, it seemed like it might not be enough. The command ship loomed over them, an implacable colossus of metal and hate. Then, with a blinding flash, its shields collapsed. A cheer went up from the human fleet as they poured fire into the exposed hull. But even as they did, the command ship lashed out with a final devastating barrage. The Odyssey shuddered as its shields overloaded, consoles exploding in showers of sparks. Zara was thrown from her chair, slamming hard into the deck. Darkness nibbled at the edges of her vision. She could taste blood in her mouth. But through the haze of pain, she saw the command ship start to break apart, consumed by secondary explosions. They had done it. At a terrible cost, they had struck a fatal blow to the heart of the Varium fleet. And on the planet below, a battered, bloodied, but unbroken humanity looked up to see the lights of their deliverance. Victory at great cost. As the Varium command ship broke apart, consumed by its own destructive energies, a ragged cheer went up from the weary survivors of the Earth Defense Fleet. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Zara pulled herself back into her chair, her uniform torn and bloody, her eyes haunted by the losses they had suffered. But even as they celebrated this hard-won victory, the remnants of the Varium fleet regrouped, preparing for a final desperate assault. They knew they were beaten, but they were determined to exact a terrible price in blood. "Captain, we're reading a massive energy surge from the remaining enemy ships," Ensign Tanaka cried out. Zara's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. "They're going to ram the planet. All ships, intercept them." The battered Earth fleet moved to block the Varium ships, placing their own hulls between the enemy and their homeworld. The Odyssey led the charge, her engines straining as she pushed herself to the limit. They met the Varium head-on, a titanic collision of metal and will. Ships on both sides crumpled and shattered under the impact, but the human line held. And then it was over. The last Varium ship exploded into a billion fragments, and a sudden, shocked silence fell over the battlefield. On the Odyssey's view screen, Earth hung in space, battered and bruised, but still defiantly alive. Zara let out a long, shuddering breath. They had done it. They had saved their world. But the cost had been staggering. More than half of the Earth Defense Fleet lay in ruins, and the great cities of the planet were in ashes. Billions had died, and those who remained faced a long, hard road to recovery. As rescue ships began to descend to the surface, bringing aid and comfort to the shell-shocked survivors, Zara knew that their work was only beginning. The Varium had been defeated here, but they still controlled vast swaths of the galaxy. There would be other battles, other worlds to liberate, and Earth itself needed to rebuild, to heal. The scars left by this terrible conflict would be long in fading. But as she looked out at her weary, battered crew, at the determined faces of the rescue teams on the planet below, Zara knew that they would endure. Humanity had been tested as never before, and it had not been found wanting. They had looked into the abyss, and they had not flinched. They had stood together, and they had prevailed. And as long as that unyielding spirit lived, as long as that flame of courage and resilience burned in human hearts, there was no challenge they could not overcome, no darkness they could not face. The road ahead would be long and hard, but they would walk it together, step by step, until the galaxy was free, and Earth was whole once more. Zara turned to her crew, a fierce, proud smile on her lips. "Stand down from battle stations, and well done, all of you. Well done, indeed." As her weary crew began to stand down, as the Odyssey slipped into orbit around the wounded but unbroken world below, Zara looked out at the stars, at the infinite possibilities that lay before them. The Varium had been just the beginning. There would be other challenges, other threats to face, but she knew now, with a bone-deep certainty, that humanity would be ready. For they had looked into the heart of the storm, and they had not been found wanting. They had proven themselves, to the galaxy and to themselves, and that was a victory that could never be taken away.